are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman, exclusively on ABC Amba TV.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to The Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman. My name is Dr. Patience Abiedu, and I will be hosting our permanent guest today on The Horizon. Let me first begin by appreciating all of you, those watching from the home front, those watching from neighboring La République du Cameroon, and all over the diaspora, and particularly our ASA, our Ambazonia State Army, that we appreciate everything you're doing for us. And for those who are working behind the scenes for this, our quest for international recognition. Without further ado, I want to welcome Dr. Fred Lobati to The Horizon. And we have a lot of information to share with you as usual. Doc, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mapi. I'm very happy to be able to present my in this program again with you today. And I trust that it's going to be a wonderful day. It's just 4 more days. And La République will be celebrating what they call 20th May, Day of Reunification and so forth. And it's important for our people to understand what that means. So it'll be wonderful to review that and talk about it.
Yes, last week we started the program, so this is really part 2. Last week I had our guest, Chairman Willie, on the program on this very topic. And today I want to get your own perspective on this topic. The fact is that it's a day that has been banned in Ambazonia for a long time. We really started enforcing the ban since 2017, and we do that every year in, year out. But let's talk about November, 20th May. Let's first begin by asking what really was the state of the Union in 1961, and thereafter, before 1972, when this fake unity took place. What was the state of the Union?
Well, that is a very interesting topic to talk about, because we need to truly understand what happened in what was called our independence. Remember that all of this thing was being masterminded by the French in collaboration with the British and what appeared to be the silence of the United Nations. So it all happened in the background of the end of the Second World War. And you know that in the Second World War, the Germans were the mighty power in Europe, in collaboration with Italians and even Japan supporting Germany and some few other countries that literally fought other nations in Europe and walked into Paris and controlled France. Mm-hmm. Hitler walked into Paris and controlled France, and France was subjugated under the control of the Germans. The Vichy government collaborated with the French, and Charles de Gaulle ran to Britain and was in exile in Britain, communicating with the French over a radio. And the French were literally defeated. They were literally crushed. While Britain was fighting hard, the United States came on the side of the British, the Russians supporting from the east, and the US cannot be reached by the Germans because of the Atlantic Ocean. And the British were almost being defeated and crushed by the Germans. And with the help of the United States, the Germans were crushed and Britain saved, and France liberated from the hands of the Germans. Literally, the French were like lunch for the Germans. One time, a US president said, were it not the United States, the French would have been speaking German today. But anyway, that is the background. That is truly the background of what happened in what was called independence. The French were liberated, and the British were also saved by the United States, and they were all extremely very poor nations. They were crushed, infrastructures destroyed, and owed a lot of money. Britain was owing over 2 times its GDP. And so the United States was the victor, along with the French, with the Russians who crushed the Germans. And these nations insisted that the European nations that had colonies in Africa must grant independence to their territories. The French and the Germans, and the British, who controlled a lot of territories. Remember that the German territories had been seized from them after the First World War. They were not willing to give up these territories because of the natural resources and the wealth of these nations. And at this time that the US and the Russians were asking for independence, these countries were extremely poor and they were reluctant to grant independence. So they conspired behind the scenes to fake independence and pretend to have given independence politically, in the sense that they will allow blacks to be rulers but control those blacks that were rulers. And in fact, they still do it today. But control the resources and the economic activities in those countries to their benefit. And so it is in this background that the so-called independence of La République du Cameroon and the former British Southern Cameroon was granted. So what happened is that as the Germans were crushed and defeated and France liberated, Charles de Gaulle emerged and became the president of France towards 1955 and towards 1958. He became the president of France, and they connived of how to control Francophone Africa. And to maintain them, they agreed to pretend to have granted the independence, but to maintain them, they had this agreement that they wanted to make with the privileged blacks that will be allowed to be presidents. They must sign an agreement with France to maintain French control in all areas, not only economic, but also political and educational, social, everything, militarily, so that the French will have full control. The British now were also trying to do the same in English-speaking nations, but not as openly as the French. They were doing it behind the scenes, so they made like they were giving independence. If you go to Nigeria, what the British did was they made sure that the Muslims in the north that they could control had military power. They had most of the military establishments in Nigeria in the north, so that the British can control them. And the man who has a gun has your life in his hands. They kill you and they have control. That's why in Nigeria, the northerners have mostly the military, they control it, and you had a lot of coup d'etats in British former colonies, whether it's Ghana or Nigeria or others, because the military man had power. But in French Cameroon, initially you didn't see a lot of coup d'etats, but the French were controlling everything. So what happened with us in the former British Southern Cameroon, or the British Cameroons, which included the North, was that the British knew that they could get the Northern Cameroons by bribing the local chiefs and have full control of their territory because they were homogeneous, but the people of the former British Cameroon were difficult. So the British agreed with the French that if we, compelled to vote in the plebiscite, decided to join the La République du Cameroon, then the French will exchange and give them £2 million for the investments in Southern Cameroon, and then France can control us. If not, then the British will continue controlling us. And that's what happened. So before then, Charles de Gaulle had signed an agreement with Abiedu that they prepared to control Francophones like Mbida and others who they had also placed in power, and they were trying to be somehow independent-minded and say some few things that they wanted. They wanted a docile person that they controlled totally. So they brought this Muslim from the north who was poorly educated, only finished the baccalaureate, Abiedu, and imposed it on them. And he signed that agreement in 1959, just like a week before La République du Cameroon had their independence, which occurred on January 1 of 1960. Remember, our own independence was set for October 1 of 1961, so over 1.5 years later. So what happened then is that we now were compelled to join the Republic of Cameroon after they had signed to remain under French control since under Ahidjo since 1 week before January 1 of 1960. So anyway, so when we were now as being compelled to decide that we will join French La République du Cameroon with the guise that we will be a federated state. And Ahidjo went to the United Nations and promised that we will be two equal states that will be respecting our individual identities and our cultures as inherited through the colonial experience. And there are different promises that Ahidjo made. But all of that was a lie. Remember, he was being controlled by the French. So anyway, we then met in Frumbang and came up with literally the constitution that the French had written for La République du Cameroon, adjusted to co-opt us. And our forefathers were surprised that already something had been put down called the constitution, which they had not contributed to. So they basically attempted to add some few ideas. And they were being manipulated in the process. They were put in nice houses with beautiful Fumban women with alcohol so that they drink and get drunk and don't think. And even then, they insisted that we will form a federal union that can never be changed from the federated nature of the state, and said some few things, so which were just added to the La République du Cameroon constitution. Now, this constitution had to be reviewed and debated and adopted in the local assemblies before it goes into effect. Ahidjo took it to the La République parliament, and they rubber stamped it because the La République parliament was controlled by the French, and they don't think. French controlled territories do not think. France thinks for them. So they just adopted it. For us in West Cameroon, our people did not really have time to adopt it, and because our people never truly adopted it, there is truly no treaty of union between English British Southern Cameroon and French Cameroon. But anyway, so they just basically, the British handed the flag to Ahidjo and then made Foncha the vice president, and he moved to Yaoundé. And Foncha was prime minister then of the former British Southern Cameroon, who had defeated Ndele in the elections in 1959. And anyway, in the process, so we were experimenting, trying to live together as a federation of two equal states. But now, the French were crafty behind the scenes, and they were trying to do everything to dismantle the institutions of the former British Southern Cameroon as inherited under the British colonial control. And so they manipulated, and in 1966, they basically dissolved our multiple party elections by forcing all political parties to unite to be one, the CNU. So no more KNDP or Foncha or the other one formed by Ndele, or even Mona was trying to experiment with his own. You didn't have all those political voices debating issues. We only had one, the Cameroon National Union, which was Ahidjo's party, the Union Cameroonian Union, that was now forced on everybody in this experimented federated state called the Cameroon National Union. And then they basically, Foncha, because he was in Yaoundé and he could not occupy two positions, gave up his position as Prime Minister of West Cameroon, and Joa was elected by Parliament to take his position, and Joa was Prime Minister of West Cameroon. But while all of this was going on, the French were still manipulating in La République du Cameroon, and so then they went and had agreements, secret agreements with a traitor, Solomon Tandeng Mona, who then was used to displace Joa, and then he was imposed as Prime Minister of West Cameroon. Now, we were practicing parliamentary democracy. That means the party with the largest majority in parliament, the leader of that party becomes the Prime Minister and has to be confirmed by parliament. Now, Joa was the leader of that party after Foncha went to Yaoundé. Muna was not a member of that party and was not in parliament, so he had no right to be prime minister. But Ahidjo just imposed Muna and displaced Joa, and Muna, now imposed himself. When he came to be as the prime minister, the parliamentarians jeered and laughed that this is fake. This is not what it's supposed to be. And then Muna ran and was leaving him in Yaoundé and calling himself the prime minister of West Cameroon. And had succeeding to displace Joa, and now they were controlling us through Muna. Now, they were now trying to figure out how to get rid of Foncha, and they succeeded to get that in 1968 by convincing Mona to play the game. And so Mona now uh, became the vice president in Foncha's place, as well as remained the prime minister of Southern Cameroons after having displaced Joa. And this was allowed. When, remember, Foncha had to give up the two positions because it was not allowed for one person to occupy two positions. Muna was now doing this on behalf of La République du Cameroun and was a traitor among us. And of course,
Wow.
many things happened before the so-called referendum in 1972. I'll just briefly say that that is what was going on in the background. There's many more things that we can say, but that's what I can summarize right now.
Wow, that's a lot of information, Doc. And when you were talking and you mentioned how the premise of that, the problem started with the plebiscite when they didn't really give us the opportunity to have our own country, and but instead to join La Republique, and that started the problem. I just decided I came across and you've talked about this before, the United Nations Secretary General, Dag Hammarskjöld, who mentioned that that was a problem. So there's this document from the United Nations that I just want to read briefly. It said, before the United Nations plebiscite in Southern Cameroon was conducted, Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld saw clearly that plebiscite was both unfair and wrong because it was meant to prevent the trust territory of Southern Cameroon from sovereign independence and to suppress a self-governing state. He told the British government that the United Nations had taken a wrong decision concerning the plebiscite in Southern Cameroon. It was necessary to correct the mistake, and he was planning a meeting to do that and allow the people a fair chance of becoming independent. He was on his way to Congo, and on his return to New York, he was going to hold a meeting with all those concerned to review the questions of the plebiscite in Southern Cameroon to prevent a future disaster. He died on the journey to Congo, and that unfair plebiscite was conducted in Southern Cameroon on 11th February 1961. So this set the stage because you knew all along it was a plan to eventually assimilate us. So they had a plan all along. But moving along, let's go now to the event itself. Things that happened around 20th May, maybe before 20th May, on 20th May, and then right after 20th May. And I'd like you to just share with our people what transpired around that time and what really took place on 20th May.
Correct. So remember, I mentioned to you that the first president of France was Charles de Gaulle. He was born
Yes.
in 1890 and he died in 1970. This so-called referendum occurred in 1972. So the new president of France after Charles de Gaulle died was Pompidou. And what has happened, and then remember again that this occurred in the background after the Nigerian Civil War. This Nigerian Civil War was instigated and promoted by the French in order to carve out the oil-rich portion of Nigeria, which is under Biafra, to take it and control it by the French, which included not only the oil in Ambazonia, but all over Cameroon through Gabon and going south. So and remember that Ujuku, who was fighting on behalf of the Biafrans and leading them, was living literally in Gabon while he was leading the Biafran war. That tells you how the French were controlling them and protecting him. But unfortunately, Ojukwu lost, and the French could not get the oil in the Biafra-rich region that they wanted to carve out to an independent state. So they came up with a new conclusion that the only way they could start harvesting or getting the oil in Ambazonia, in the former British Southern Cameroon, which they knew was oil-rich, was to get rid of the so-called federation. And so they called Ahidjo to Élysée, which is the French presidency, and instructed him what to do. And Ahidjo went and got his instructions there. arrived in Yaoundé in less than 3 weeks. He gathered everybody and told them that they have decided to get rid of the federation. And so they have to conduct a referendum to accomplish that. Because once they get rid of the federation, they can fully move on to harvest the oil. Because if they were doing it with us considered being sovereign on our own, there will be an uproar. So they imposed it, and now remember, Muna had been a traitor, was collaborating now with the French, had benefits for himself and his children. He was now the Speaker of the National Assembly, as well as acting as the Prime Minister of West Cameroon. He collaborated with them fully. And so they came up with a charade and then conducted the elections in less than 3 weeks, imposed it, and then had and said that the federated nature of the state is done with, and we're now a united Republic of Cameroon. And immediately France went on to start harvesting the oil in Bakassi in our territory in the Ndian subdivision. And of course, you know about Sonora there. So that's what truly happened. The issue was to start harvesting the oil in southern Cameroon.
Well, we have been told that for a long time that the only reason they are interested in southern Cameroon is because of our resources. But I'm curious. I mean, I've heard things about why 20th May. Is there a particular reason why that date 20th May was chosen and not any other day? What was so special about the 20th of May, if I may ask?
It was, number one, the precipitated nature of the instructions from the French of Pompidou called Ahidjo to France, gave him instructions and said, get this done. And so he was following instructions to get it done. And then another opinion is that 20th May was the birthday of his wife. So he just picked that. But he could have, even if his wife was born, say, in December, they had the pressure from France to get this done as soon as possible. So the 20th day was just picked. And then they used it as a compromise to say that the Francophones had their independence on January 1. We had our independence on October 1. So 20th May will now be the national day for all of Cameroon, and then all those 2 days were forgotten. That's why the Francophones don't celebrate January 1. And they were using our October 1 basically as, used some kind of a ceremony. I think it used to be used for sports, which they try to wipe away from our memory.
Yeah, okay. And so we understand that was like a constitutional coup d'etat or revolution, because as we hear, he just unilaterally went and did what he did. I think I was reading that there was this article, the Article 47 in the Constitution really states that under no circumstances will this union federation be ever abolished or put to an end. But Biya went ahead and did it. Ahidjo went ahead and did it. So what was so special about Ahidjo that people could not come out and riot or protest? I mean, for somebody doing something like that, why were people so afraid of him?
Remember that people in those days, you're talking the early 70s, you did not have all this social media. We were barely struggling to have a radio. The people were getting their information but from the radio. And the only single newspaper that you could get was the government version. So there was indoctrination by whatever the government wanted you to have. And the French controlled everything. They controlled the military, and so they made Ahidjo a strong man. Ahidjo was fully under the control of the French, and the French used their military to protect him and to carry out their desire basically in East Cameroon. And anybody who opposed, they pick you up and kill you. So that's why, and before they did that, remember that the UPC people that were being persecuted by the French since 1955, the last one that was killed, and this one, he was killed in Bafoussam at the square in 1971. Remember that this so-called referendum occurred in 1972. So it was actually, again, when you read the details, Pompidou gave instructions to Ahidjo that he had traveled to Gabon and Congo, that before he comes to Yaoundé, Ahidjo should get rid of the problem of the UPC. That means the few remnants of the UPC militants that were locked up in jail and Eswanji, and that Ahidjo should kill them. So Ahidjo got them killed in order to receive Pompidou in Yaoundé. So the thing here was an absolute dictatorship with the risk of death to your life if you opposed it under the protection of the French military. That was what was special to Ahidjo. That's what made Ahidjo a dictator. And there was nothing like social media, no other information. You depended on whatever they fed you from the singles radio, which I don't think was very strong in those days, and the single newspaper. Whatever the government said, it was like the truth.
Yeah, and then something also remarkable that happened right around at the same time. But by the way, Doc, so how was the process in terms of the referendum, the voting, where apparently there were the ballots we and yes,
Yes.
that were
Correct.
yes. Go ahead.
So remember that they were under one party rule, and there was absolute dictatorship. And so if you do not toe the line, if you don't do what the government wants, you'll be killed. They can kill you at any moment. And so in their foolishness, they pretended that they were having a referendum where they were seeking the opinion of the people. And they printed the ballots, and the ballot said, you agree with whatever they had put forward to get rid of the federation, in spite of that clause that said you can never get rid of the federation. So you had to comply and agree with it. If you are a francophone, you vote oui, which means yes. And if you're an anglophone, you vote yes, which means you agree with it. And so they imposed it. There was no. It was because there was total, absolute dictatorship, and actually they lacked common sense. And people didn't know best to do. And so that's basically what happened there in the background.
Understood. Okay, and then another thing, just immediately after that in June, my understanding is that right after that in June, the West Cameroon became divided into Northwest and Southwest around June 1st, 1972. You want to talk briefly about that? Because I think that really was set a stage for divide and conquer.
Correct. Remember that all the maneuvering concerning the contraption called Cameroon has always been around the resource-rich former British Southern Cameroon. In fact, the British said that the former British Southern Cameroon is a treasure trove. Well, before we were forced to join the Republic of Cameroon, only the former British Southern Cameroon had sufficient money to supply and pay the needs of the northern Cameroons that went to Nigeria. That means we had so much money that it met our own needs, and we were supporting the North. Yet the British lied in the United Nations, as you read what the UN Secretary General then said, that we were not strong, economically viable to take care of ourselves. That was a lie. And that United Nations Secretary General was killed in the Congo by these people who wanted to take our resources. They connived and destroyed the plane in which he was flying and killed him. Okay. So anyway, everything that was happening was to capture Southern Cameroons, control them to get their resources. So after having succeeded to get rid of the Federation, they dismantled all the government infrastructures. So Joa, or Muna in this case, being the Prime Minister, was in their hand, in their pocket. He was working with them to dismantle our infrastructures. They got rid of our parliament, got rid of all of our governmental things, carried all our things to La République du Cameroun. Even the PWD machines that they were used to dig roads, they were all carried to East Cameroon. Everything, Ombe, everything you can think of. People can give you information how all our infrastructures were dismantled and carried to East Cameroon. Our bank, that was, people were borrowing money from to do business. Even Photo Victor, called the richest man in French Cameroon, came and borrowed money but from West Cameroonian Bank to do his business. Because in French Cameroon, you were not allowed to borrow more than 3 million. You had to get permission from Paris. But in English Cameroon, you could borrow money and do business. You had businesses like Nanga and Kilo and others. So they dismantled all of that after that referendum. And now they had us totally under control. So they can now harvest the oil and control everything. Everything was just that. And so now they came to break us up. Before we were one entity, land and people, so they decided to divide us because they said divide and conquer. So they divided us now into the Northwest and Southwest, and then told the people in the Southwest that they're different from those in the Northwest. And the people from the Northwest are different from those in the Southwest. And even subsequently, when they broke up into different divisions, they continually do the same thing, chop into small, small pieces. If you want to kill a snake, chop the head and the body into small, small pieces, and the snake cannot come back together. That is the strategy that they have been using. All their actions are designed to totally break up and destroy the people of Southern Cameroon so they can now freely harvest the resources of the land. That's all what they have been doing.
Yeah, and they've succeeded so much for all these years. So now let's just talk to the people, Doc, because um, we know the United States, they will celebrate July 4th as their Independence Day. Nigeria, I think they celebrate October 1st as their own Independence Day. So most nations celebrate one day a year all over the nation as the day that is significant for them. In La République du Cameroon, that has annexed or assimilated Ambazonia, they have chosen 20th May to celebrate. That really has no significance for us, for Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians. It's really a day that we lost our identity. So thinking about everything that has transpired from what we used to be to now, 2025, could you just give us some reasons why, if you are really a Southern Cameroonian, you should not be celebrating this day, regardless of the fact that it was a day that was based on a coup d'etat, a constitutional coup d'etat. But other than that, what other reasons can you tell our people why this day should never be celebrated in Ambazonia or even in La République du Cameroon?
So remember that the people, they do not love the human beings living in the land. They love the things in the land, the resources, the wealth underground and above ground, all the things that are there. These are people that are jealous, they are covetous, they think carnally, let me use that word. And so they don't love you. Don't believe me that they love you. The demonstration that they don't love you is the killing. You see how they kill you without regard. And even in that government article that La Republique wrote, how they will keep power in perpetuity, the Bulus, they said that they should have no pity on the Anglophones. That nobody should feel sorry for amount of death among the Anglophones. They should rather be worried about those that are living. They should not worry about the dead and how many have been killed. They don't love you. They don't care about you. And so that is one reason not to celebrate 20th May, because 20th May is a day that they wanted to totally squash and deal away with what was the former British Southern Cameroon. And by getting away with the federated nature that gave the semblance of us being a separate independent nation that joined them and forced us to be one with them as a united La République du Cameroun. So, and when they did, the name United still remained to give the impression that two things were brought together. And so Ahidjo Abia finished it off around 1985 when he just reverted back to La République du Cameroun so that they would not even think that we're there. And when he did that, the Francophones were rejoicing. They said he got us totally captured without going to war. And so that is a day that we should not celebrate because it means that it's a day that they have finished us off and they think that we are done with. And they don't care about you. If you want to know that they don't love you, as we're speaking, they'll have 20th May in 4 days, and in Bambili right now is infiltrated with troops going around house to house, picking students who came to study in the university and locking them up and killing them. They may want to force some of them to march on 20th May to give the impression that there was massive participation in the occasion. Maybe that's why they send the troops there in large numbers to pick people up so that they will force them to march on gunpoint. That means if you don't march, they'll kill you, but that's what is happening. So they don't care about us. They don't love us. They don't love you. Don't be deceived. Even when they bribe you with a position, like a Kanyanji, Deongute, they don't love you. They don't care about you. You have no dignity. They can get rid of you anytime. Like they succeeded to capture Frundi and then eventually got rid of Frundi. They can get rid of you anytime. So that's the reason not to celebrate 20th May. Even the Francophones have no true reason to celebrate what is called 20th May. But you know, they're very docile. They don't know anything else. They have always been under the control of the French since after the Germans were defeated after the First World War, since 1919. So they have always been under the control of the French. They don't know any true independence. They don't have no freedom to think for themselves. They just do whatever the leaders say. So they don't even know what 20th May means, and they celebrate. And so they don't even have a knowledge of any semblance of a significance of January 1. And they have never truly been independent, so it doesn't mean anything to them. I don't know that I should blame them because they don't know what they're doing. They're totally in darkness there.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you've given, in fact, the reason that you gave is really the main reason, because that's why there's a genocide in our land, because they don't care for us. That's why they're killing us. So when you think about the Mami Api, the Sam Sawyer, the Baby Martha, Baby Caroles, all those who have gone ahead, our sons that are defending us, all the valiant Ambazonia State Army that we've lost, it's because they don't care for us, and they will continue to kill us. There's a hand message that was sent out. What day was it sent out? Was it today? I don't see the date. Oh, let me look at the bottom with the signature. Today, May 15th. It says hand message from Senior Divisional Officer Fako. No, not that. You have the wrong, not that. Yes, it's a hand message about 20th May. It's a text. On the occasion of the celebration of the 59th edition of the Unity Day on May 20th, 2025, I have the honor to request you to ensure that all traditional rulers of the first, second, and third class chiefdoms in your respective jurisdiction are effectively present at the grandstand XX. The unjustified absence of a traditional ruler will immediately be subjected to a request for explanation, and a disciplinary file be sent to hierarchy. Treat as imperative. XX. That is signed by Mekala, administrative civil principal. So that came out today. I don't know if you've seen it. So they're already beginning to find ways of having people present to celebrate this fake day. And the irony is that if it was a day that was significant, you will not be begging, you will not be forcing people. People will just know that it's a day that they should cherish, and they will just be looking forward to it. But if you have to send out a message and demand, then you know that something is wrong with that day, right?
Correct. So remember again, that is a so-called senior divisional officer, and that is a Bolu guy that is from Bias region. Most of them are indoctrinated in Enam to serve the interests of France, and he is instructing the chiefs. These are our traditional leaders that inherited the position of the leaders who carried us through time to where our populations are located in their ethnic groups. And people look up to the traditional leader as the leader of the local group. And he is instructing them as if he's talking to school children. He tells them that each one of them must show up and present at the grandstand. And if any of them does not, he's going to compile documents and submit to authority. Who is this authority? The authority he's talking about here is a Tanganji. A Tanganji is the Minister of Territorial Administration who controls the governors and the DOs, like this guy writing this. And the chiefs are regarded as auxiliaries of the administration. So he says he will report them to authority for sanction. So imagine what they have reduced our chiefs to. They have reduced our traditional rulers to simpletons. They can talk to them like little children and threaten them and say, if you don't show up and stand in the grandstand and celebrate that day by force, will deal with you. And that's what has happened. So that even today, as we're talking about the military in Bambui and Bambali maltreating our children, one of the individuals that instructed the government to send the military was the chief of Bambali. The so-called Fund of Bambali is one of those. There are about 4 of them, collaborating with the Republic of Cameroon, that got the Republic to send those massive troop presence in Bambali to go around harassing and torturing their people. What is going to happen with time is that all these traditional leaders that are working with the Republic of Cameroon will lose their significance among the population and will no longer be there. For now, they're hanging on and eating the crumbs with the Republic of Cameroon. The people will always be there. The Republic will never kill all the people. They can kill some, but they will never kill all the people. With time, these chiefs will discredit themselves, lose their identity, and we will no longer have them, but the people will move on. But that's what's happening. And the Republic has created an association for traditional rulers where they gather them together and indoctrinate them and use them to serve the interests of France. That's what is truly happening in that letter. That just demonstrates what they do.
Okay, Doc, we're going to be ending this topic today very soon, but I just want to change topic quickly to just read a letter that came out a few weeks ago. We'll just touch on it briefly. I think it was put on the air on the screen briefly, but I'm going to read it because it's something that came about. Well, the date is right there, so I'll just read it since it's there. Go ahead. Yes, let me just read it so people know what's going on. We'll talk about it briefly. Official statement from the Ambazonia Governing Council in support of Professor Maurice Kamto. The Ambazonia Governing Council informs the national and international public that the negotiations initiated several months ago for a strategic alignment between AGOVC and Brigade Anti-Sardinaz, BAS, has successfully concluded. These negotiations, driven by a shared commitment to meaningful change in Cameroon, have resulted in a mutually agreed partnership between both parties. In this spirit of unity and collaboration, an official delegation representing the Ambazonian community took part in the Congress of Code, collective of democratic and patriotic organizations of the people of the Cameroonian diaspora, held on April 26, 2025. This participation marks a significant step in the convergence of progressive forces within the Cameroonian diaspora. Following the arbitrary and unjustified arrest of Sisiku Julius Ayuk Tabe and Lucas Ayabacho, historical leaders of the Ambazonian independence movement, the AGOVC, after unanimous consultation with its members, supporters, and strategic partners, hereby officially declares in support for Professor Maurice Kamto in the context of the October 2025 presidential election in Cameroon. In this regard, the Ambazonian Governing Council confirms its participation in the rally organized by the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM, scheduled to take place in Paris on May 31st, 2025, alongside the BAS and other change-driven movements. The AGOVC remains firmly committed to a political solution that is inclusive, respects the aspiration of all peoples, and is grounded in justice, truth, and sustainable reconciliation. Wow, Doc, I'm bringing this as we conclude the show. You can take it down now, please. I'm bringing this as we conclude the show because it touches a lot of things. When you listen to this, what is your take-home message? I mean, what do you want to share with us? You know, because there's a lot of things in that.
There are so many things that you can say about that document. First of all, I believe it's a loud-sounding nothing as far as the people of the former British Southern Cameroon are concerned. The organization that signed that, the AGOVC, is consistent with themselves. Remember, that is the group that has been collaborating with the Republic of Cameroon and fielding fake Amba boys in the territory killing our people, pretending that they are Ambazonians fighting La République du Cameroon, but working on behalf of La République du Cameroon, armed by La République du Cameroon, torturing our people and killing them. So those are those people. So they are consistent with themselves. That's why they are coming out clearly supporting La République du Cameroon individuals and not really standing firmly on behalf of the children of former British Cameroon. Now, regarding what they call elections in La République du Cameroon, La République du Cameroon cannot conduct true, free, and fair elections because they are controlled by the French. Most of the people of the groups that they are aligning with are Bamileke children who are frustrated and angry. They grew up during the time of the Parliament in the early 1990s when Frundi emerged, and there was revolution in Cameroon after the fall of the Soviet Union and the fall of the Berlin Wall. And people thought that also there was going to be political change in Cameroon. These Bamileke children were demonstrating. Remember that they were oppressed by the French since the 1950s, and Ernest Wanji was killed in Bafoussam. These Bamileke children were thinking that they too can now have a voice. But La République has persecuted them just like they do against the Ambazonians, and many of them ran, and they are in Europe active as the BAS and the CODE. And so they are gathering and thinking that they want to effect any kind of change in Cameroon. But they cannot truly conduct any change in Cameroon because the elections are controlled by the Ministry of Territorial Administration and using the governors and the DOs they rig in the field in favor of the person that the French want. That's why they're already manipulating to impose on the people somebody who is naturally, biologically incompetent to be president. And then after that, they can replace him with the person that the French want to continue. So their efforts have already failed because if it comes to that they want, can only be president of Cameroon if he signs an agreement with the French to control Cameroon on behalf of the French and let Cameroon be under the influence and control of the French. Otherwise, Kamto can never be president of Cameroon. Cameroon is the last stand of the French in Africa. I know that they're in Ivory Coast, but if you look, they have been losing in the Sahel, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, and even Senegal was trying to separate itself. Even Chad was trying to tell the French to get rid of their troops. The French faked a coup d'etat in Gabon, and they are afraid that they may lose Cameroon, so they are doing everything to make sure that they don't lose Cameroon. And that's why you find them getting every force, bribing young people with bread and sardine, old people, all the different structures of the society to say that they're for beer, who they know naturally cannot be, so that they can pretend that some change occurred and then put the person that they want. But what is going to happen is that the French are going to lose control. It is not whether they will. It's just a matter of time. And they will lose it. And after they lose it, they will become insignificant and change will occur in Cameroon. So these people have already taken their sides and they are demonstrating who they are. They have always been with the Francophones, and so it's not surprising to me. I don't think we should truly be bothering ourselves with them. Let's leave them alone. They have demonstrated who they are. They are with La République du Cameroon, so we should not worry about them. Ambazonia,
Yes.
the people of former Cameroon are totally different from the Francophones, and they will emerge and assert their identity and thrive in this world.
Absolutely. We just want to share with
Correct.
Yes, we're just trying to share with the people so that they know that IGOVC is not really some group or whatever that cares for Ambazonia. They are with La République du Cameroon. So as long as people understand this, they know exactly whom to support. So we're going to be ending the program, Doc. This one we just talked about briefly, so that people should know what is going on in the recently, because this was a document that just came out not too long ago. We're going to conclude. I just wanted to give our people advice. We can take down the document now. Give our people advice what they should do on 20th May. The mothers, the sisters, the daughters, the sons, what they should really do on 20th May. And how should they prepare for the lockdown? Because there's a lockdown from the 17th to the 21st. And so what is expected of them?
So what I would tell them is this. If you know that somebody does not love you and he wants to kill you, even when he pretends to be taking care of you, then if you are wise, you stay away from that person. You do everything possible not to allow him kill you. That's who La République du Cameroon is. So if it is in your power to go or not go, don't go, because you're not doing yourself any good. But if you are in a situation where they put a gun on your head and march you to the field that you must march, and if you don't march, you'll be killed, I believe you should pray. That's my personal opinion. And whatever is in your conscience, you do. If you think you allow yourself to be shot in the head as a martyr, but if you think you have to march under gunpoint for your own safety, do what is in your conscience. But if you don't have a gun on your head, please, don't go there. They don't love you. They don't care about you, because they have demonstrated it. That's what they are doing right now in Bambui and Bambuli and many other places within Ambazonia. Don't even participate. Stay at home.
Stay at home. Thank you so much, Doc, for the short program today. I really appreciate you. You just have so much information. I hope our people are listening every time when you come on, because that historical perspective of what happened in our territory early on before La République, set its tentacles and just engulf us. We should really understand the history. And the sad thing is that those who were born, I have said this before several times, those who were in their maybe 50s and maybe some of the late 40s, 50s and over, they know some of that history. The sad thing is the young people that may not know what is going on, and that's why we come on this program to share with them information and make them understand that we had a nation before that was thriving, that was beautiful, that we were proud of, that there was growth, that there were potential for young people. Now that's not the case, and that's one reason that you should not be going out there to march on 20th May. You have no future. There's no hope for our youth, and a lot of our young ones have been killed, murdered, raped, especially our young girls. Some of them are prostitutes in neighboring La République because there's no future for them. So La République is really, really not our friend. We are hoping that one day we'll be good neighbors, but until that happens, this day, 20th May, is banned in Ambazonia, is banned in Southern Cameroon. And please respect the lockdown, respect the lockdowns that have been imposed. Start preparing by making sure that you have basic things at home, food and water, and you should know where to keep them, where to store them away from the enemy. So I want to end this program today and encourage you to keep the faith and know that your country, Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, is really founded on the truth. It's founded on justice. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to fight for. And with that said, I want to wish you a great weekend. And by the way, tomorrow, the 17th, I believe is ABC Amba TV Day. Make sure you come support ABC Amba TV, okay? Because this is the voice of the voiceless. This is the medium where you can know what is going on in the world, what is going on in Southern Cameroon, what is going on in La République du Cameroon. And so please come support ABC Amba TV on Saturday. With that said, I wish you all the best and thank you for watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman. So long.
You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman, exclusively on ABC Amba TV.